Hey there. So almost 2 years ago, I did a video showing off my DM or GM kit, the bag that I bring with me whenever I'm running a game. At the time, although I was running several games, I was specifically showing off the kit that I used for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Since then, I have transitioned to only playing old school 1980s basic expert or BECME Dungeons & Dragons. So I thought I would show off that kit so you can see what's in my bag. I've got the same old bag from Powell Books in Portland, and let me just dig right in here. I'm going to be shifting around a bunch. First thing I find, I'm just pulling it out as I find it, is this big old dice bag. Got it free with some Kickstarter from Dice Envy, and it's turned out to be a pretty awesome bag that holds tons of dice. So obviously, every Dungeon Master, Game Master has a bag full of dice. What I've done here, because I tend to run a lot of games with kids or newbies to the hobby, is that a couple years ago at Comic-Con, I went through a Chessex and grabbed dice that were specifically these colors. So each shape of dice, each like polyhedral, I got in a different color, and they're just, although I'm missing a couple here, they're Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, so that I grabbed identical sets like this. The point being that like when I'm playing with a new player or a young person who's not as familiar, like looking at the shape and knowing, hey, that's a 20-sided die, I can just say, grab the red die, grab the purple die, grab the yellow die. And it has made it so much quicker at the table to communicate which die is which. And so I have a bag full of like 6 or 7 sets of these that I put together individually, and that's how I do it. Like 5th edition, where I pretty quickly realized that I couldn't bring all the books I wanted with me, especially because those books are gigantic. When I was running 5th edition games, I was bringing an iPad, and like really soon after we started playing, I realized, hey, I have to have an iPad with me to have just resources at my fingertips. With old school games, I'm trying to stay as analog as possible, but unfortunately that means bringing a library with me to my games, at least the in-person ones. So first of all, I've got the Old School Essentials reference booklet. This was one that I picked up that was like partially misprinted or something from Exalted Funeral. It's got a bunch of the quick charts, monsters, player characters, things like that I need to reference. Almost all of this is on the GM screen, which you'll see I have in the bag. So it's a little bit superfluous, but I like having it on hand. Second of all, I've got a couple issues of Carcass Crawler, the official zine of Old School Essentials. This was really intentional. I had one player who wanted to play a goblin, and I've found that the Acolyte and the Mage are also great classes for beginning players to the old school, so they're not dealing with the low-powered magic user or low-powered cleric, and they get these two classes, if you know them, they have a few magic spells as skills. So they have more magical powers at first level than like a cleric or a magic user would have. They just don't get much more powerful as they level up. But it's been great to jump in with those. This I keep on hand because I really love this snake cult dungeon that's in it. And at some point, my players will find themselves lost in the woods, and we'll probably encounter that. Speaking of that, I keep this on hand as well, just in case my players go off the beaten path and I need something like just some, dungeon to throw at them. This is Dungeon, DNGN number 1, and it is an awesome, first 10 levels of a mega dungeon. It is just so beautifully made and has these cool, handout sort of show off pieces in the back that you would show to your players to demonstrate various things they find in the dungeon. But it's basically just so easy that I can quickly pull it out and run a level if I need to do that. Then I have the Old School Armory, which has not been as useful as I hoped it would be. To be honest, although this is like a super value, I got it off Drive-Thru RPG, this is way thicker than I thought it would be. What I wanted it for was that sweet spot of when you're creating a new character and you just want a kit for that character. So what it does is give you pretty quick gear sets. So say you're making a cleric, you go, hey, I want to kind of flavor this as a hermit cleric. Well, great. For 149 gold pieces, here's your kit. It's got the holy symbol, the adventurer's kit, the fishing kit, it just has everything in the set. I thought this was going to save a lot of time to just be able to say, hey, grab the stealth kit, grab the sewing kit, something like that, you know. And I anticipated doing that, but so far we're really relying on the player's tome from Old School Essentials or the Rules Cyclopedia when we're looking up equipment costs. Still, keep this on hand. It's just a pretty cool book. Then, of course, I got the referee's tome. And to be honest, this weekend's game was the first that I went bringing only this. The first couple of games, I brought in the entire Rules Cyclopedia. And I thought, well, I don't need all that stuff. Let me just grab the referee's tome because it's going to have sort of the wandering monsters and the tables like that I really need. And I don't know, an hour in or something, I ran across a reference that I wanted to make from BECME, not BX. More on that, you know, in another video, and did not have the Rules Cyclopedia with me. Nevertheless, you know, we got through it. This is just so freaking well designed. It's so easy to, you know, look at the monsters, you know, look at the like a wandering chart, reference the wilderness travel or the dungeons travel. So just love having that with me. I've got Gig Economy, which is another little zine I grabbed from Exalted Funeral, which is just full of NPCs. And I've used this in basically every old school game that I've run so far, where even if I just need a name, I'll just flip through here and grab a name. But especially because we're headed into a town, my party, and they need to run across a magic user and an armorer. So I just grabbed one of these at random, and I grabbed a fighter to be our armorer. And I've got names, I've got characteristics, I've got like a little description. It's just been really great to have that on hand, like quick reference. Then I've got the Incandescent Grottos. This is the dungeon that my players have most recently been in. Just a beautiful adventure, and I really love it. That's probably only partially the library, but we'll see what else I find in here. This is just a beautiful sketchbook that a friend gave me that I am using as my campaign notebook. You can see it's like not totally filled out. I'm keeping up with the session notes in that. Got a packet full of pens here. That's what I write with. This is just a quickie dice tray to keep those dice on the table. This is the Old School Essentials DM screen. A lot of these charts are repeated in both that reference book and the referee's tome, but it looks awesome. And I like playing with the screen. Even though there's not many secrets I keep back there, I love it. I have printouts of the, what's this called? The Rogues Gallery for Old School Essentials. So it's a bunch of NPCs that when we have a character death, I can hand this to my players and they can, you know, quickly find their next character in here. I've also got some blank character sheets, as well as like the time tracker for myself in here, and little cheat sheets that I made for some of the basic expert rules. Oh yeah, I also keep these on my GM bag just in case I need to clip notes to my GM screen. I've got another rollout dice tray that has mostly served as a seat for a cat at our game. I keep tons of index cards. I'm just using these constantly to make really quick notes on that can be disposable, you know, hit point trackers, that kind of thing. This is kind of useful, not super useful, but I don't know if you can see this. I got some dot grid index cards that are like a little bit more card stocky than standard index cards. And I have used them occasionally to draw a quick map for the players, but they didn't work out the way I wanted to. So it's not something I foresee myself like, you know, keeping in stock. I've got a dice tray. Man, I meant to look up the maker of this before I started the video. It's just a magnetic dice tower, I mean, that I snapped together for all my games. I do believe the maker of this went out of business, so never mind, they're gone. I always keep with me the How Will You Die die, which is never really seen any play in a game, but it has 20 awful ways to pass away. For example, dismembered by a Yeti, or rather abruptly. Well, at some point I can see a fortune teller reading somebody's fortune with that. This is just a giant crack in D20 that really intimidates people when you roll it on the table. You know, ooh, natural 20. I have got a little kitchen timer here. I have only used this a couple of times and it has not really been that useful, but it's still going out with me in the bag. And then finally, I have the forged dice kit here that pretty much contains everything I need on the dice side of things. I also keep like some pencils and crap in here. I have these little monster tokens that I showed off in my previous video. I have since gotten the large size of those monster tokens in case I need larger monsters. They're just great in old school games. I don't do a lot of like really tactical, gridular based combat, but throwing those down on the table to give a sense of the room has been pretty helpful. I keep a pack of these Chessex like tokens just in case we need to track something with them. These I got from Free RPG Day, so they're just going with me everywhere. One of the kids that I've DM'd with made a Lego approximation of me, so that goes with me in my DM kit. Sometimes rides on top of the DM screen. Of course, I got some Sharpies. And then in here, I've got all the dice. And of course, this converts to like a nice little dice tray for me. But here's the fun stuff. I have, same as I showed off in the last video, the black, white, red, and yellow old school Chessex dice. They're so visible, so easy to grab what I need and roll them and see them. I really love that. Got a hit locator, you know, it's got different body parts as you roll it. This came in handy a couple of games ago. We had a really weird effect go on that I largely had to improvise. And the players were asking like, well, where did I hit him with this? It was a vial of ooze that they were throwing, and it would have an effect on just the body part. It wouldn't affect hit points. So I thought, hey, here's a way to randomize that so I don't have to think about it. That's probably the only time I've really used that, but I really loved having it with me that time. These are some dice, can't remember where I got them from. They are quick character generators. So you can see there's like a class, a folk like tiefling, dwarf, turtle, then 2 alignment dice for, you know, neutral and good and evil and chaotic and all that kind of stuff. I have used those on time to time with, I think specifically in games with kids where they really love interacting with NPCs, and I need to just come up with something really quick that's probably like a fantasy folk, like an elf, rather than in an old school game where, you know, 90% of the time they're running into a human if it's an NPC. Here's this adorable little weather die I got, I believe from Nano Lab Dice back in 2020. Just a, you know, cool weather die to tell my players what the weather's doing that day. This is a really useful die. It just says yes or no on it. These 2 dice just have weird little symbols on them. I really just use them for like inspiration when making dungeons, but they are going in the kit with me for whatever reason. I've got a friend or foe die, much like the yes or no die. I've got some 3-sided dice because, of course, you need 3-sided dice from time to time in old school games. After all, that's how you heal. These are 4-sided dice from Dice Envy. Are they the Infinity dice? But I just love them. Mostly this is a 5e thing, you know, a 4d4, 2d4, or 4d4 for healing. They've got the little hearts on them, makes them cool, but also great for magic missiles. And these are metal, so they have this like great weight to them. These are the same shape infinities, but they are actually just 2-sided dice that are part of the Portents of the Degloved Hand Morkborg campaign. Often I need 2-sided dice, so I ordered an extra set of them and just keep them in the kit. This is the disaster, destruction, disease, death die that goes with that set, the Portents of the Degloved Hand. And that's all the dice. And that is pretty much the kit as I have it right now. I just found a random pen. There's pens everywhere in this kit, pens and pencils. I hope that maybe is an interesting video. All right, cool. Thanks. Bye.